I call the honourable member for Gippsland.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to speak on behalf of older Gippslanders who are struggling to make ends meet on the single-age pension. I also seek to highlight my concern that the federal government is paralysed by a mentality of reviews and inquiries and is failing to take action to help older Gippslanders, carers and people with disabilities to enjoy a decent standard of living. Finally, I ask the question, somewhat rhetorically, is there a statute of limitations on the blame game? When does a new government stop looking backwards and blaming its predecessors and get on with the job of governing the nation? Judging by the Victorian Parliament, the Labor blame game goes on forever. The Brumby and Bracks governments have been in power for 9 years and they are still looking backwards and blaming the previous Kennett government, which left office in 1999. I urge government ministers to end the blame game in relation to pensioners and carers and get on with the job they are elected to do. For example, we all know that the single-age pension is inadequate. We've already had reports and inquiries which have highlighted the problem. The Senate committee report titled A Decent Quality of Life was tabled in March this year, and I quote from the executive summary. Australians have endured cost of living increases over recent years. In many cases, incomes have risen commensurately and compensate for these cost pressures. However, many older people, especially those on low fixed incomes with little discretionary spending capacity, are vulnerable to these prices. In particular, they are disproportionately affected by cost increases in essential goods and services, food, rent, petrol, household utilities and healthcare. The report continued that although the real value of the age pension had increased over the past decade, evidence suggests that for those on a full pension, this level may be insufficient to maintain a basic, decent standard of living. The Pension Review background paper, released last month, revealed that the single rate of pension, which is set at 60%, is lower than the average of 63% for major OECD countries. We are clearly falling behind world standards, and the Prime Minister knows it's a problem. In response to a question in August 27, the Prime Minister conceded that the cost of living expenses have, and I quote, certainly spiked in recent times because of factors like petrol and groceries. Indeed, the Minister for Family and Community Services is reported in today's Australian newspaper as saying there's no question that all of these people who are wholly dependent on the single rate of either the age pension or the disability support pension are finding it very hard to make ends meet. There's a recognition at the highest level of the federal government that cost of living pressures have spiked and these increases have a greater impact on our pensioners and our carers. The government's response thus far has been to order another review. Why not act now? Why wait until next February for the review findings, then further delays while the review is considered? It could be another 12 months before this government does anything to help our pensioners and carers. If the government wants to buy some time until the review is released, I support an immediate catch-up payment of $300 to pensioners and carers, including people with a disability who were discriminated against in the May budget. Help give them a chance to have a decent Christmas. We can afford to do better now. I also agree with the National Seniors Australia that we need to investigate ways to better prepare the nation for pensioners and an ageing generation into the future. We must support these people who are currently relying on the age pension. The current single-age pension is not enough to provide a decent standard of living and must be urgently increased by at least $30 per week or 2/3 of the couples rate as proposed by National Seniors. We can't afford to condemn our pensioners to another 12 months of struggling to find the money to eat healthily, pay the bills, cover their medical expenses and to get around to visit friends and attend social activities. This is even more of an issue in country areas like Gippsland. They don't have the luxury of access to public transport. Instead, they must pay the higher petrol prices, or worse still, they choose to stay at home and miss out on the social life that they richly deserve and the quality of life opportunities that would add to a healthier lifestyle for them. These are the people who built our great nation. They allow us to enjoy the privileges we have today, and these people deserve better. Deputy Speaker, most pensioners didn't have the opportunity of compulsory superannuation to prepare themselves for their retirement. And as for the single women receiving the age pension, they're often in a worse situation because they've not necessarily had the opportunity to work outside the family home and have had very limited superannuation opportunities. They also may have spent many years as a carer for a family member. As I said during my inaugural speech to the House, carers of family members save our nation a king's ransom, but they often live the life of a pauper. We live in a wealthy nation. We can do better and we must do better. We can afford to give our pensioners and carers a decent standard of living. This is a test of the government's rhetoric. They promised to govern for all Australians, and it's time for action now, not more empty words. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.